Hi, welcome to the DRB. We'll go over a few items of procedure and interested party rules, and we'll swear everybody in. We have one item of new business, which is a request to the DRB by Benjamin Randall for a 3-lot subdivision located at 39 Orr Road, which is in the low-density residential zoning district. We have an old business, a continuation of a request to the DRB by VRMT4 for a preliminary plat review for an 18-lot residential PUD, including open space lot, with a phase 1 review of the development proposed. This is at 91 Governor Peck Road in the rural agricultural residential zoning district. And then we're going to approve minutes for January 25th and February 22nd. And that will be our meeting tonight. So welcome everybody. I'm going to read you these proceedings will be conducted in an orderly manner consistent with the DRB's rules of procedure. Written copies of the rules of procedure are available, but we will walk you through the process. You don't need a copy to participate. The first item I'll ask about is any conflict of interest or ex parte communication from board members about the items on tonight's agenda. No. Ben?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to read the item of interested parties. Interested parties has to do with the right to appeal. So interested parties are those under Vermont law have the right to appeal an act or decision of the Jericho zoning or the DRB. Interested parties include the applicant, or if the applicant does not own the property, the person owning title to the property. A person owning or occupying property in the immediate neighborhood of a property that is the subject of any decision or act who can demonstrate a physical or environmental impact on the person's interest under the criteria reviewed, and who alleges that the decision or act, if confirmed, will violate the municipal plan or bylaw. And the last group of interested persons would be any 10 persons, either voters or landowners, who by signed petition to the DRB allege that the decision or act, if confirmed, will violate the municipal plan or bylaw. The petitioners must designate one person to serve as a representative. Why is this important? Even though many people may be interested in the application, only statutorily defined interested persons may appeal a decision of a zoning officer or DRB. If an interested person fails to make a timely appeal, they are bound by that decision. Interested persons must participate in a hearing to protect their appeal rights. And that's why we've asked everybody, if you haven't signed in, to please sign in so that we have your information about and define you as interested parties for the discussions tonight.
Jeff, can you ask the people that are online, they can put their contact information in the chat box?
Okay. So if you're online, please send your, please put your contact information in the chat box, so we'll register you that way. Only those interested persons who have participated in a DRB proceeding may appeal a decision re-entered in that proceeding environmental court. Pursuant to state statute, participation consists of offering through rule or written testimony, evidence or statement of concern related to the subject of the proceeding. If there were to be an appeal of the work we do tonight, the DRB does not determine who is an interested party. That is part of the appeal process, but we do need to establish who participated in the hearing. To help that, we ask you two things. Please sign in, but if you're on video, just please put it in the chat. When you speak in the meeting, please tell us your name loud and clear so that we can record it in the meeting minutes. So I'm going to say give the oath, and if people would please say I do if they are going to give testimony tonight. I hereby swear that the evidence I give is in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll go with the start with the first item, which is Benjamin Randall for a 3-lot subdivision.
Awesome. Do we sit here?
Please sit here.
Awesome. How's it going, everyone?
Good.
My name is Donovan Ward. I'm here. I work for Rd and Jarvis. I'm here on behalf of Benjamin Randall. Ben is proposing to subdivide his 9.75 acre parcel into 3 lots, and Chris is pulling up the sketch plan here. Into 3 lots. The parcel is located at 39 Orr Road, predominantly in the low-density residential zoning district. Lot 1 will be 3.3 acres in size, roughly, will contain the existing.
So excuse me, it's clear. This is a sketch review, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
We should have specified that. Okay.
Sorry about that. 3.3 acres in size and will contain the existing single-family residence that will continue to be served by the drilled well water supply and on-site wastewater disposal system, which is will be the lot furthest to the south.
So you've got a lot here.
Yep.
A lot here.
Yep.
And a lot here.
And they go 1, 2, and 3 moving north. So lot 1 will be the southernmost, contain the existing residence, be served by the existing on-site drilled well and on-site wastewater disposal system. Lot 2 and 3 will be 3.1 acres in size, and again, right around 3.3 acres in size respectively. Each will be improved with single-family residences, will be served by on-site wastewater disposal systems and a shared drilled well water supply. Access for the lots, the entire frontage is going to go to lot 3, and access to lots 1, 2, and 3 will be via the existing gravel driveway, which will have to be widened as per Jericho standards. There will be a 30-foot wide right-of-way centered over the driveway as constructed to benefit lots 1 and 2. We did do a preliminary wetland.
Say that
delineation.
again. You meant lots 2 and 3.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, 2 and 3.
Okay.
To benefit, yeah. Or it would be a right-of-way over lot 2, right-of-way over lot 2 and 3 to benefit lots 1 and 2, I guess, and 3, to benefit all of them. We have done a preliminary wetland delineation, which is the purple line kind of wrapping around the parcel, and there is the wetland buffer that's an offset of that line. That delineation has not undergone review by the state of Vermont yet, so it's, subject to move, but we are planning on site development outside of the buffer.
Can you show us, I'm sorry,
Can I extend up
can you
for
extend
one?
up and just show us
Yeah.
that wetland?
Yeah, so the
demarcating?
wetland line kind of wraps around, and then the buffer line is offset from that. So we've got wetland in here. We also have wetland on the other side of the parcel.
Oops, what did I do?
Quickly moving
Turn
wetlands.
around now.
I turned it around. Oh, let's go. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that.
Yep, so we've got kind of a wetland complex in here that's connected to a wetland on the south side of the driveway by a culvert. There's also a wetland on the eastern side of the parcel. So this portion of the driveway does pass through wetland buffer, and the wetland permit will have to be obtained to widen the driveway. And then also there is the forested, the town of Jericho has identified the forested riparian area, which is of ecological importance, which is this orange line on the eastern side of the parcel. And all development and building envelopes will be outside of that orange line.
So there won't be any cutting.
Correct. And that's pretty much my spiel. I don't know if you guys have any questions on or concerns.
You say there won't be any cutting?
So do you have the well and wastewater shields?
So the well and the wastewater shields have not been drawn on yet. So this is the existing drilled well for the existing residents. We're proposing a shared well in the center. It's going to be located on lot 2, with deeded right of way to lot 3. Wastewater system.
How does a shared well work?
A few different ways. You can just kind of split it out after the pitless adapter and just kind of run it to each pressure tank within the system.
Okay.
You do have to ensure that there's enough yield on the well. The instantaneous peak demand is going to be greater than 10 gallons per minute to serve each individual 5 gallons per day or 5 gallons per minute per residence. So when they drill the well, they will have to ensure that the quantity out of the well is.
So there has to be a maintenance agreement between the 2 lots for
Correct.
that?
Yep.
Okay.
And then wastewater system here and wastewater system here. We've dug test pits on the property and the soils are suitable.
Oh, I see. Okay. It was on the left,
Oh, okay.
on the left side of the driveway there.
Right there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you
explain what the topography is on the site? and
Yeah.
How drainage is working? and-
Yep, yeah, so with kind of the wetlands would be down slopes, this is kind of an upland finger, kind of the high point of the parcel, and it rolls down, there's a stream off the eastern side, which is the low point, and the wetland being a low point, so it kind of moves off to the east and west.
Overall, it's fairly level though. It's
Yes,
just,
it's not steep.
it's not like, yeah, it's not steep.
Not
at all.
steep
It's,
at all.
you know, gentle
So
slope.
what's the variation? I mean,
I would say it's
from low
maybe
point to high point?
like 5% slope. Most, which would be 5 feet over 100. Yeah.
But you're not on the other side of Orr Road, the hills continue to climb? Or are you on the ridge top here?
Yeah, I'm on the Clark's end, so it's pretty kind of level all throughout there.
Okay, okay.
So would electric to the site have to be,
Current electric comes through Brown's Trace Road to the
from the
existing,
east?
from the existing site. Power comes through the woods behind lot 1, where Brown's Trace Road would be.
So would it
So that's how
continue,
current power
would it
comes.
continue to be overhead or would you bury? new
Ideally,
lines?
I'd bury everything.
Power lines on the-
No, the map isn't.
Yeah, we
Doesn't
didn't, we
show.
haven't surveyed it yet,
Yeah.
so we haven't gone.
Yeah, I just have Google Maps up and
Okay.
it doesn't.
Yeah, we haven't collected any data yet, other than just digging test pits.
But in terms of the contours of the driveway, that's flat, pretty much?
Oh, yeah.
Halfway up it, it starts to slope up a little bit, but it's,
Uh-huh.
again, gentle, but perfectly flat the first half for sure.
And you're using the existing curb cut.
That's correct.
And there would be an agreement between the three landowners regarding access.
Yep, maintenance,
That'll be-
upkeep.
yeah.
So Chris, we can have frontage for up to 3 lots, right? The easements across the 2. You can have it up to for 3 lots
You can have lots that don't have frontage,
that have an easement.
basically because they have the access through a lot that does have frontage.
Yeah.
So sort of like your lot.
That's what I was thinking, because it's the same district, so
Yeah.
it'd be, is it up to 3 parcels or could you have?
Depending on the size of the parcel, I mean, yeah, so.
Gotcha.
Hey, this is a little over 9 acres or just under 10 acre, parcel.
I think my tax bill says a little over 10, so when you said 9 something, I was like, oh,
The truck.
we'll have to look at that.
Better
So-
hurry up
so the
before you
lots-
pull one.
The lots down below the driveway, those are,
No, this is a different one.
Yep, so this is the property line kind of kicks out. It's kind of blurry on this map. So property line runs here, kicks down, and it's kind of this dog leg on the bottom. So this piece, this red line here would be a subdivision line. So this would be lot 1, lot 2, kind of running through the middle, and lot 3.
and so access to those 2 lots that are not part of this is what?
That is through, they've got a driveway over
Yep,
here.
so there are existing residences on those lots right now.
Yeah.
That
And-
bottom one is a recent, a couple of years ago, it was approved.
It was the Dean's Pens. Was it the Pens? I think it was the Pens.
That's this
Or is that
parcel
even further?
here.
That's
No,
further.
that, that one, yeah, the
That's
one
this
to the
one.
right of that though is
Okay.
also was subdivided, that was
Yeah.
2 years ago.
And they access how?
The Bennis's have a driveway here, and then Wimble's got a driveway here, and they both, I believe they share this driveway.
You do, yeah, basically it comes off here and then there's a ridge and the house site is approximately here.
So there was the riparian overlay. Were there any other natural resource overlays for this property?
There was a wetland overlay that we kind of picked up with our delineation as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not showing the town of Jericho wetland overlay. I can if you guys want on the further site plans. But I would assume that a delineation confirmed by the state would probably be a little bit more accurate.
Which has not been performed, you said.
Yeah, the
Quite yet, right?
delineation has been done, but we just haven't reviewed it yet with an ecologist. So the wetland line might shift a little bit, but
Are they class 2s?
Yeah. based on size and significance.
The only other overlay is the river overlay, but basically that's a smaller overlay
Right.
underneath the forest riparian. And they're very similar, so.
And they've said that there wouldn't be any cutting, there
Right.
wouldn't be any disturbance. in that
Right,
area.
yeah, the forest.
Around the dry river.
Yeah.
There's water in that like maybe 3 weeks a year, so it's kind of an annoying little thing, but the snow melts, there is a little stream there.
So the siting of your house sites is just to put them up at the high point? Is that?
More or less, yep. Just keep them in the upland area, kind of pinched between the wetland buffer and the forested riparian area.
Uh-huh.
Just was kind of the most suitable spot.
I think the only thing for the board to consider, as well as the applicant, is obviously the lessening of impacts in the buffer area, i.e. lawns, things along that line. Just so when you're, if it is to be approved, we probably want to see some legals that talk to those types of things, just to make sure that it ensures that the buyer buys it, realizes here's what they're getting.
Now, you're speaking to the buffer of the wetland?
Yeah, things like, yeah.
Okay, and like making sure no cutting within the forested
Right,
riparian
yeah, so you
area.
don't
Okay.
want to, it's like if I buy lot 3, I decide I want to have a horse farm in a pond,
Right.
and then not be able to. So
What's the green dash line on the right, on the left side of the,
I think
That
that's
one
the
there?
buffer.
That's a wetland buffer.
and then it's red on the other side?
no,
So this would be, we get wetland kind of up, so there's a stream, there's a little gully here, so this is, wetland upslope of the stream.
Yeah.
50-foot offsets the wetland buffer, then we're into upland, then hitting the next wetland buffer, and then wetlands
I
complex
see, so.
here. It kind of rolls up, hit a teeny little, hill. This
That's
is a
probably it. Okay,
strong word.
yeah, that's clear.
Ben, do you have any questions?
No.
Anything else, Chris?
no, they're moving in the right direction, getting, and then we just need to get questions answered. It is considered a minor, so they have, I guess they have the option to go to preliminary if they'd like, or if they want to go to final, they can make that request. The only advantage of going to preliminary is having a dry run, making sure everything's sort of set. I'll leave that up to you guys, for your application. So if you came here and we were at a final, I'd probably recommend to the board to continue it until we have legals that, things along those lines. So how you guys want to dot your i's and cross your t's. That's fine. The more thorough the application, addressing everything, and answering the questions, the easier it'll be through final. So similar to like the last subdivision we did on Orr Rd extension area where they didn't have the legals, they didn't have certain things that the board wasn't comfortable to approve. So.
Do you guys like seeing draft deeds at final?
Yeah, I would want to see draft deeds. We want to see the maintenance agreement.
Yeah.
Any sort of state review or confirmation, on where the state gets the bite at the apple.
Mhm.
If there's any sort of issuance or need for some sort of permit or sign off from the state, we want copies of those, things along those lines. So your legal's basically going to be, if you want to show building envelopes, because you're going to have pretty tight building envelopes.
Yeah, we're gonna have building envelopes that will be on the subdivision plat.
Right, and that'll be helpful for the deeds and sort of delineating the edges.
And then notifying the, getting responses back from the committees. Trails Committee,
it's
Conservation
probably-
Committee, and Fire Department.
Yeah,
Ability
yeah,
to serve from the
yeah.
fire department.
Road
Yeah,
Committee.
send me an email, I'll give you the advisory committee, the contact information. There'll be some that probably will not respond just because of the size of the application, or if they do, they may not really have a comment, so.
Okay. It is, should we ask for public comment? Is there any public comment on this request? Anybody in the, here? No? Anybody online with any public question, any questions on this?
You need to raise your hand so I can let you in if you do.
Well, thank you very
Is
much.
there anything else, I guess, that you guys would, that we haven't talked about yet for the final review? Is there any other information we should have that we didn't talk about?
Now, you may want to, maybe worthwhile getting a hold of the lister, because you're going to need addresses for the lots.
Okay.
So she may be like, okay, you know, we're running out of Orr Road numbers, so maybe you should call it Randall Way and have 1, 2, 3 or whatever it may be, but that'd be worth contacting the lister. Just,
Doesn't it have to have a name since it serves 3?
no, it's still a private driveway.
3 is the cutoff, right?
Yes, yeah. But they may have numbers, but if they don't, then there may be some other way to address it. So,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
So our next item is continuation of a request of the DRB.
Sorry, Jeff,
Before.
Jeff, Chris,
Yeah.
sorry, Tom has a question in the chat.
oh. Okay.
Okay. Thanks for pointing it out, Ben. Tom?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just curious to know whether or not one of our wetland experts on our committee might be able to just do a informal site visit at some point.
It'd be up to you.
I mean, basically, Tom, he's gonna get all the advisory committee's contact information. You'll be on it. You can make that request. It'd probably be advisable. I mean, to at least let you guys see it because you're the advisory committee.
Yeah, and I'd be more than happy to walk the property with you and show you where the delineation line fell.
Beautiful. That's great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So you have VRMT4, VRMT4. Welcome back.
Thank you. I don't know what you want to start with. Good things.
Well, I guess we updated 3
Yeah,
submissions, so
we can,
doesn't really matter to us which one you want to pull up. I guess we're understanding that tonight we're gonna dig into the actual phase 1 lot. Is that what our agenda is? Just to be clear?
yep.
Okay,
Yep.
just want to make sure, right? I didn't know if there was any other questions.
Why don't you open the phase 1 then?
This one.
Yeah, because it's the clearest to read and mostly about the lots.
It says phase 1. site plan.
That one there, John, right?
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll ask you to zoom in closer to the
Yeah.
main area in a little bit. Appreciate the time tonight. What we're bringing back to you after our discussion at the last meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you weren't here when he swore everybody in. Is it assumed that we're continued to be under oath, under a continuance, or should we swear John in?
Did you say? I do?
He wasn't here
I was
when,
not.
when we did the thing.
Okay, we'll read the oath.
Sorry, just want to make sure.
What?
No, I appreciate bringing that up.
Okay. I'll read the oath and you can please say I do. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause and the consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalty of perjury.
I do.
Thank you.
There you go.
So, we're coming back to you tonight with a detailed layout of the 8 lots that we would like to permit in this first phase. In addition to that, as required by your phased PUD subdivision regulations, we have shown future phase areas. We just have them blocked off. We don't have individual house sites. We don't have all the stormwater design and roads, et cetera. But we are showing you where in the future, if we do phase 2 and a possible phase 3, where we would actually do development. And I can stand up there and point it if it's easier to see because of the zoom out.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay.
And that way, because what I can follow along with the cursor.
As you remember, we have our proposed development road that comes up the hill. Phase 1 is 8 lots. And you can see by these white squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are the lots we'd like to develop first and permit with you folks in this go around. What we would like to do in the future possibly is then infill some lots as we work back towards the road. So we would probably do another phase where we'd infill between those, reserving spaces for house sites. And then in the distant future, we marked off an area where we will investigate further development. And that's bounded by this line here. So we have a lower development area. We don't have a lot layout yet, but this is just to give you a heads up that this is where we expect to investigate our next phase. That shows that this entire center section, this far southwestern section, and all along Governor Peck Road is to remain as open lands and undeveloped for the entirety of the project. In addition to that, we have a border along the neighboring property of 100 feet that will also remain as open land. So the discussion for tonight is the detailed specifications of the development road, lot clearing area and building zones, our septic and wells, our stormwater collection and treatment, and the process that we laid out for designing each of these house sites. So that's what we'd like to present to you today in greater detail and answer any questions you have about what house site we chose, what was our rationale, how we're going to get there, and those sort of specifications. So that's a general overview of what we have to present to you. In addition to that plan, we've then taken those house sites and overlaid it on the 25% slope plan. And we've also overlaid these lots on the natural resources overlay map as required. We have those in other maps and you can go through those if you want, or we can wait until there's specific questions about lots, whatever works best for everyone.
So the lots you have as future phase, those will continue to be owned by EMRT4. They'll continue to own those lots.
Yeah, exactly.
But the open space will be owned by the HOA.
Right, and VRMT4 will be a member of the HOA. So, but yes, all of the lands are owned by the HOA until they're subdivided.
But the lots that say future phase,
Mhm.
those, okay, so the HOA would have, you're saying that the lots that would say future phase will be owned by the HOA?
Well, it's all part of the open land. So we're not defined, they're not defined as lots. They're just areas where future lots could exist. So we haven't laid them out as physical lots yet. But that's our idea is that, especially on the upper section, as John pointed out, those 3 areas that are future phases,
Uh-huh,
those happen to be right in that plus or minus 3 acre range, like
okay.
all the other phase 1 lots. So it's highly possible that those would be individual lots, but it's also possible that they could be subdivided into 2 or 3 different lots because of the minimum lot size. So yeah, all of the lands not being indicated as 1 through 8 remain part of the overall property for the HOA until they're subdivided in the future.
So
But the ownership will be the HOA. So if you have 8 people buy the 8 lots you've set here, they plus BMRT4 will own all that land and they will come back for future
We'll
subdivision?
continue to own all the land, but we're part of the HOA is what I'm saying. So we're a member of that HOA, just like the 8 homeowners would be.
Okay,
They'll control the HOA.
okay.
Lot 6, I'm looking right now on my computer, I've got the overlay,
Okay,
Okay.
and I'm
Which-
not seeing,
You have
I think it's on the far left, Chris, is number 6.
You want to use this map here, Phil, is that?
I mean, yeah, it may not help with me looking at this here, but that's, yeah. I'm not seeing where you've got room for a house.
Everything in the white is the building zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So you come to the end of the cul-de-sac, 3 houses split off, we have a building zone and clearing limits. This is a different shape because it's on kind of a
Yeah.
peninsula. And so we have a building zone that encompasses the septic system, the well. And so you would come in and your house would be in this general area with either gravity or pump feet down the septic area in front of you. And I can give you a dimension of that building zone. To show the whole property on one plan, this
Yeah.
plan is at a fairly large scale, so just for reference, that building zone is 90 feet wide, and its entire length is 200 feet long. So the building zone's 90 by 200, so that's a fairly good sized building zone.
The requirement in the zoning regs is basically they have 10,000 square feet of buildable area
Okay.
for it to be a lot. And so what's happened in previous subdivisions that are this size, they have topography like this, basically we get an overall plan, and then through the process, they'll end up having a plan, and whether it's lots, was like, 5, 6, 7, 8 that are blown up, so you get the detail to show that you're not impacting the 25% grade, things along
Yep.
those lines.
Yep.
Essentially, to prove that, yes, they are buildable lots.
If you want to switch over to the grade
Yeah.
plan,
Yeah.
then I think we can show you that all those white building zones fit
That's this
in
one.
this areas. And that's why that one has a rectangular shape instead of like a square, because the square reached onto some areas that were over 25%.
That's this one, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. The shaded kind of mustard yellow color.
The mustardy yellow on this is the area.
Of steep slopes.
Steep
Anything over
slopes.
25%. So you'll see why I elongated this building zone, that it goes out on this plateau and stays in the white. So is this house site, this one's simple, this whole thing is like 5 or 6%, very flat. This has a little stretch of yellow through the middle because there's a fold in the contour. If you stand there, it's kind of a little bit of a rolling lot. This isn't really a steep slope. It's just like this little fold that creates this 25 through the middle. There's plenty of room to build a house site if it needs to be no touching of 25%. We still have room coming off the road, go past the well. We only have to be 10 feet from a well. So that house could be snowed in right here. And we pump the septic over there. This house site, no problem. It slides over.
So go back to slide 8. So you have the 10,000 square feet of buildable area there.
Yes.
In all of these cases, we're actually closer to 22,000 square feet. Lot 6 is about 19,000, but yeah, we're shooting for about a half acre of buildable area just to demonstrate that there was actually more space than the 10,000.
Okay, thank you.
So 1, 8, and 6 are the ones that are the tightest. Oh, maybe.
One's not,
Yeah, no,
Maybe.
no, it's okay.
yeah.
That's
They're,
got-
all of them
that's
are
got
well
more
over
room.
10,000 square feet of buildable space. The building zones, rather than just do these, put a bunch of squares up there, we've really tried to mold them around the topography and be realistic about keeping people in the buildable area and not let them expand off into spots that don't make sense.
So where we are in the process, just for, I guess, maybe I'll help the board understand as well as the public. Is that when they were here last time, they showed that there's the ability to potentially get to their ask of 17 lots, including the density bonus. Now they're coming back and showing how these meet all the regulations. So they're buildable. And if you found one that wasn't buildable because of whatever reason, that would be the time to bring up, now's the time to bring up that issue to either allow them to amend that lot or, change the request because we're at preliminary. So the idea here would be that they're going to walk away with a approval for potential of 17 lot PUD, and that they'll have review and approval for the first 8 residential lots to be able to pull permits as well as build the road associated with all those development impacts and review concerns. So.
So can I ask about no, never mind. I got it.
Do we have a road profile?
Sure do. I have a paper copy, or if you want to.
Yeah, I'll tell you, let me give me a second. I've got to put out of the file. You know which exhibit it was? Because we have a lot.
We have a few, yeah.
You didn't, you didn't?
We submitted that back in January 11th.
That didn't change, so I didn't resubmit a new profile.
Okay, so that was kind of fit, so,
That
okay.
was exhibit 35 and 36.
C7 and C8 is the.
C7 and C8? Okay, there we go, okay.
Broke it up into 2 pieces, so it's easy to read.
Okay, just hold on. Pull up, C8, so,
So the first sheet is essentially the construction of the elevators. This is the first sheet. This is essentially the construction of the road up the hill.
This being Governor Peck.
Correct. Governor Peck is to your far left where you come off the road, you come into the site.
I'm just gonna interrupt you, John, just, so
Yeah,
this
go
is
ahead.
coming, Governor Peck, this is existing grade?
Correct. The squiggly line is the existing topography. And
Proposed.
anytime the proposed line is above the existing topography, it's a fill. Anytime it's below, it's a cut. And if you switch to the other page, you'll see that once you get to the top of the hill, we just kind of are following the natural grade. Like we're kind of flattening out a few bumps in the road, so to speak, but we're not really doing any construction of any substantial earth moving on that. The hill section is really informed by a request from the fire department. They are fairly insistent that we stay below a 10% grade. So we are building to the town highway standard, full width road with a 2-foot shoulder and ditching. I think, Andrew, you asked at the last meeting about the stretch of road that's closest to the neighboring property line and how we were going to achieve that. If you look at your site plan, you'll see that the stretch where we come over closest to that property line is between station 500 and 700. And I can point that on the plan if that's helpful. That's,
Sorry, I'm just gonna,
zoom in. That's this stretch right here, station 500 to station 700. How are we gonna do that without causing any grading on the neighbor's property or like doing a cut slope or bank like that? You'll switch to the profile, you'll see that This happens to be the stretch of the road that we're mostly on the existing ground grade. So we're not talking about a huge cut and fill. We don't have to cut a cut slope that would then cause more tree clearing and slope rights. And we're not doing a big fill where we have to create the road profile, say up here, and then do these big fill slopes down to meet natural grade. We are right here. We're on grade here and on grade here. And this is about 2.5 feet of fill. So there's a little divot in the existing log road that we're going to fill and create a smoother road profile. So we can get fairly close to the property line here and not cause any encroachment onto their property, cut their trees, disturb their property line at all, because the road construction is very consistent with the existing roadway.
What's that overall slope?
This slope, you'll see, we did it in 100-foot sections. So in some places it's 7.8, here it's 9.9, right here it's exactly 10, here it's 8.9. So it kind of meanders a little bit, but we're trying to just keep it an average. We're trying to not exceed 10%.
Right, it's actually averaging less than 10%.
Correct, yeah, it's averaging probably 9.2 or 8.9 or something like that.
Thanks for addressing that.
Yeah, no problem. Your question was good and it stuck in my head, so I thought I'd bring it back to you.
So in that same area too, we're still dealing with a wetland that I remember, Joe, you had explained last time that was down below, right? Where
Yeah.
the road profile is.
Right. So where the current logging road comes in from Governor Peck Road is where we're planning to obviously construct the improved road. And as you come into the property, and I can stand up for that one too. As you come in, we'll look at this on the profile. As you come into the property, this first 100 feet or so is almost dead flat. And I'm assuming it's because Mr. Dillon used it to load logging trucks and whatnot. And then it starts coming up the hill relatively sharply here. And that's kind of like the biggest rise that we have. That's why you see kind of the largest amount of fill here. And that's to get to that below 10%. But what happens is from Governor Peck Road, this actually slopes up substantially to this existing road. So while the wetlands show kind of swooping around in here, we're actually up at, I don't even know what the contour is, but it's probably 12 to 14 feet higher than Governor Peck Road, if not even higher than that. So while this wetland seems to delineate out here, the reality of it is that this embankment comes up steeply. So when you get to the road, it crests and then goes back down. So this is all in that low-lying area where the stream actually follows Governor Peck Road. So I just wanted, because on a 2D map, it's hard to really understand that. But if you were looking at like Google Maps from Governor Peck Road, you could actually see the incline from the road up there. So I know that these are the maps that we all have to deal with. It's just sometimes the maps aren't really portraying what's really there.
So do we need specific permits to do these improvements through this wetland? There's no buffer delineated here. Just curious what the
Yeah,
regulations are around this work.
fair question. Yeah, I didn't show a buffer on this because of the discrepancy in terms of like what the wetland is versus what it's shown on this overlay. We met with A&R, Agency Natural Resources. We had our own wetlands person, Kristen Rose, delineate wetlands on the project that we're going to develop. And then we came along with the state and had them re-review everything. And they walked that path with us. They came across and they're like, this is, this is an existing curb cut. The roadway goes up the hill. If you're going to improve this roadway and stay in its general profile, we're fine with what you're going to do.
So we have not seen any delineation or any communication, to that effect, because from staff standpoint, it's one of the issues. It's sort of like an unanswered question. So.
Right. All we have is obviously our natural resource impact analysis that Kristen did, as well as the follow-up email from the state, which was also submitted in the application concurring with her assessment.
That's true.
Yeah.
We have that correspondence.
Go back to the profile. Is that what you said, John?
No, I said we have that correspondence. I'm
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy to answer whatever question rolls up next.
And as, of course, the reason we're using that curb cut is because it's there. And, you know, the road has been used for quite a while. And we did meet with the town, I forget his name, Andy? Town foreman?
Adam.
Adam,
And, you know, he
Adam
was
McGee.
great. He gave us some advice, you know, right now, there's a existing culvert that goes across Governor Peck Road, just north of our curb cut, just a little bit to the left, Chris, I think. Yeah, right, a little bit more. Right there. And,
Oh, yeah, there it is.
yeah, and so that is the existing culvert where the stream actually goes across the road, so it doesn't go under our curb cut. But he did make a request to us when we got our curb cut permit that we consider putting in an overflow culvert. Because apparently he's witnessed on occasion where the water level has gotten up high because the culvert's undersized going under Governor Peck Road. So of course we said, sure. I mean, that would make sense if he thinks it makes sense. So as part of our curb cut permit, John designed in a new 30-inch. I think there's a note to the left that says install new 30-inch overflow culvert. So of course that invert would be set up higher. So just to.
yeah, we're not in terms of like rerouting any water or moving any water course or anything. We have no intention and want to do that. We're just trying to, you know, heed his advice that he's seen. And if water is going to get to the top of that culvert, that it would be directed safely down the roadside ditch instead of across a curb cut or even across Governor Peck Road.
What is an invert?
It's the bottom of the pipe. So the bottom of the pipe is lower that crosses Governor Peck, and we want the mainstream to stay that course and leave it alone. If it gets high in a rainstorm event and that starts to fill, we want to provide a designed legitimate overflow versus flooding Governor Peck or flooding our driveway, washing across Governor Peck. So that's completely at his request, and we're trying to fulfill that. The other reason we're using this curb cut is that it has really great sight distance. It's like over 800 feet in each direction. It's on a very good straightaway. Governor Peck does have some curves in it, but this seems to be one of the straighter sections, and plenty of room to, you know, pull up, look left, look right, even in slippery condition, feel like you're not going to slide out into the road. And be able to, you know, have a really good visual inspection of who's coming from either direction.
Speaking a little bit about your stormwater basins and just the
Yeah.
management of water with the new road. I just see that there's a strategy that you've implemented. You can just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. We will need to get a stormwater discharge permit from the state of Vermont. And so we have kind of a bunch of different strategies in mind here. Most rooftop runoff will fall onto grade less than 5%. So we're gonna have to disconnect that. So we won't have a structural practice to handle rooftops. So what we will be having is a structural practice to handle most of the road surfaces, the cul-de-sac, the main road itself. And so it's going to be a combination of infiltration and storage. Larger storms are going to get stored and released slowly over time so that we don't have any adverse impact on small drainage ways or the stream along Governor Peck. But we have a lot of sandy soil on the property, so we can recharge a lot of that back into the groundwater table instead of redirecting it or you know, altering the groundwater pattern in the area. So we have a series of ponds. We have drainage swales along the roads that direct the water either directly to the pond or to a cross culvert that goes under our access road and into the pond. Each pond has a forebay. Forebay is there to collect the first flush of sediment or people that happen to drop their, you know, bag of chips out the window, and any floatables, anything like that go into that first forebay, catch it there. And then the water overflows that forebay into the main bay of the pond. And that main bay of the pond is sized to store that either 10 or 100-year storm and release it through a small orifice or overflow pipe at a rate over 12 or 24 hours, depending on the water body that it's dumping to. In this case, it's mostly stream based, so we would be releasing that over 12 hours. so that we maintain water temperatures. If you store water too long, it gets warmer in the pond than the receiving water, and it can cause some adverse effects. So we're really trying to maintain water quality through that. And this entire plan will all be approved, and we will need to have a stormwater discharge permit, both for operational ongoing, and we'll need a stormwater discharge permit for the construction of the development, controlling erosion, limiting areas of access, and that sort of thing. Is that specific enough, or is there any other?
No, I think that was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where you show culverts, like here
Yes, sir.
and in here,
Yes.
so these are all this is picking up water on this side and bringing it.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good catch, Chris. There's two that we are collecting our stormwater and putting it into a pond, but we also don't want to mess up the natural flow of waters that aren't involved in stormwater, like that wetland.
Right.
We do not want to direct it into our pond because that
Right.
changes the drainage.
Right.
So we're actually putting in extra culverts in places so that, say, that wetland is going to bypass our stormwater collection system and maintain its natural flow course. We don't want to like pick it up, move it down the road,
Right.
and drive it back. So anywhere that there's offsite or uphill drainage that does not have impervious surfaces involved in it, we're letting that bypass and continue on its way without altering its course.
So this here functions as it does today.
Correct.
And
it
then
will in the
basically
future.
any water that's associated in this area here gets picked up, collected and discharged here into this. And it shows the outflow on a steep slope. So I assume that's really probably not going to end there. It's probably going to end somewhere closer.
So what happens in this, where this wetland is now, there's a dip in the road and it just overflows over the
Oh, all
line
right.
and over the bank.
Right.
You can see little folds in the
Yep, yep.
topography that collect that.
Yep.
So what we're doing is, and just like down the main road, how you set the invert of these pipes indicates which water goes where.
Mhm.
So this water is starting in this area. This side of the road will drain to this side and be carried into this part of the pond. This side is actually going to be carried in a swale. But if we extend the pipe beyond the swale actually goes over the top of this pipe, goes into this drainage, and then collects and gets treated.
Oh, I didn't
because
see.
this is
Okay, I
pond.
didn't see that drainage.
Yeah,
there.
there's
Okay.
one pipe right there.
Right, yeah, okay.
This pond, this whole class 2 wetland is going to continue on the course that it did. And it's actually going to get sent under the road through a pipe, past our pond, and carry on its merry way, just as it does now. We're trying to maintain those natural courses and not, engineer water left, engineer water right. We're just trying to let that do its thing, but collect the water that is going to come off our new
So
impervious surface.
in this area, because basically the wetland, is in here. So you had, an impact here.
That culvert is for the stormwater, Chris.
So
There's
it's
a
picking up the
swale.
stormwater off the road, collecting here and then dumping into the pond.
Correct.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, I wanted, okay.
No, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly.
No expert, but it looks, there's up here where it's kind of flat, there's a lot of stormwater basins. And then it looks like when the road gets steep, there's just that one stormwater basin. I mean, obviously the state
Yeah.
knows this, but just for my information,
Yeah, what you'll notice is the size of the pond.
that's a
Because-
really, bet in the bottom of the hill there, that's a really.
Right,
big
and because of
stormwater
this,
basin.
this topography along the level area is so flat, it's really challenging to collect all the stormwater and send it to one spot. So we kind of have 1, 2, 3, 4 broken up sections of that road sent to smaller ponds.
Oh, okay, that's to do with it.
areas that make
It has
sense.
to do with it, okay.
And then when we get to the top of the hill, there isn't really an opportunity to break that up. So we're kind of collecting from, as soon as you go past that pond, you
Yeah.
head down the hill, we're collecting all the water. And so that pond is larger, it's longer and linear, it provides more volume for storage. So, we design stormwater based on the grade of the land, where's water being directed. And if, honestly, from our perspective, breaking the water up and not sending it all to one spot is the better treatment. Creating smaller ponds, they're easier to maintain and they, are just smaller and easier to build. So if we can break it up,
Uh-huh.
it's a better system. Where we can't because of the topography and once you head down that hill, water is kind of be following along the ditches inside of that road. Then we'll do one collection at the bottom and store it, treat it, and then release it as needed.
Now, that upper section there, that's also a wetland. Am I reading that correctly up on top?
Here.
Near where the, no, where the.
By
road-
Governor
where
Peck
the road
Road?
comes in.
Yes, there's a wetland, a floodplain wetland that follows both sides of that stream that then crosses under Governor Peck.
And
Yes.
the road already goes through there, but you will be improving on the road.
Correct.
Right, that's what I was saying earlier, Phil, is that that road is actually fairly elevated above where those areas are
Okay.
next to Governor Peck Road.
Yeah.
So even though the little green Ws are floating around in there, the reality of it is that the road is much higher. So, you know, without getting into the nth scale of that, we're confident that the road and the new road is actually outside the limits of that, just because of the topography. But there is some down at the bottom, again, as we talked about, the existing road.
So the river comes along here, goes across here. I assume it picks up again here and comes through
Yes.
here.
Yep.
So basically, you know, the stream goes from one side to the other side to back to the south side. And that's why you end up having the floodplain, the wetland, you
Correct.
know, and everything
Yeah.
else along, you know, this area here.
Right.
That's right.
So the red line indicates the buffer. The purple is the floodplain area.
Correct.
And the green hatch is basically the wetland.
Yes.
And actually, that red dash line is our 100-foot buffer.
Right.
Just
Yeah,
just to be clear, I didn't want to confuse somebody that was a,
no, this one
yeah,
here.
right, the squiggly one, you're right, is the buffer.
That's what I was.
Sorry.
Yeah, this bigger scale of line types kind of blend together a little bit. Sorry about that.
Where are you in process with regards to, it's okay to ask a question? With the process with regards to getting, you know, something more formal from the state with regards to the wetland impacts, things along those lines. I mean, traditionally, the board gets to see some of that information at preliminary.
Okay.
You know, usually we really like to see all state approvals, you know, in hand for final. That way, we're just checking boxes as opposed to conditioning applications, because sometimes things change and all of a sudden we got to come back. So just to give you, you know, an idea of sort of the process that we adopted or that we, you know, traditionally use. Because there's a bunch, obviously, there's a lot of paperwork involved and review, and both from, you know, the municipal as well as state standpoint. And our regulations sort of mirror the state. So the curiosity would be is you know, where are you at in that process?
Okay.
And, you know, when do you expect, you know, review or permits or things along those lines? Just because the conversation started, but how developed is it? And we're, you know,
Okay.
when we're going to come out the other end.
I guess my question, to answer your question, I need another ask. Sorry. When.
No way.
Yes. When we're talking about state approvals, does the town of Jericho condition permits that we provide, you know, before the permit's valid or before we can start construction, like the wastewater permit, for example, like that's a state permit, not a town permit.
Right.
Do you condition saying, yeah, you're approved for your 8 lots, you just have to have your wastewater permits and stormwater
Right, so
permits in the state of
basically-
Vermont, or do you have to have that first and then get final?
No. So what you'd end up in that instance or process, what we've done in the past. So basically the approvals we'd be looking for are, you know, your stormwater, basically your stormwater. This is before, you know, when you go to final. Or, you know, before we get through final, we'd like to see the stormwater, you know, permits in hand, any sort of wetland permit from the state in hand. Basically, we'd want to see some, I would assume you'd have some designs there, but the idea with regards to the buildable lots, we would see the deeds in their form. But and the site locations for, you know, the prospective septic areas.
We have the.
Yeah.
septic and well.
And so basically, you know, you would end up, you could walk away with an approval for 8 residential lots. If you don't have the wastewater permit in hand, then basically before a zoning permit would be issued, that wastewater permit would need to be issued by the state before we would issue
Sure.
the zoning permit for the
Yeah, that
building.
makes sense.
So on that end, but if we don't want to, what we don't want to do is condition the approval that you get a wetland permit or the stormwater permit or things along those lines, because we've had in the past where there's been some amending or changing, and then it usually goes back to the DRB for whatever the change is. And usually the applicant's not very happy. So we try to get all that stuff taken care of ahead of time.
Yeah, I agree. We will need to have the stormwater and the wetland permits before final.
When you say that comes back to the board, they're not happy, just who's not?
No, the
happy?
applicant's not happy
Because what, because,
because basically the state says, oh, no, you need to do it this way. And there's a change and the board's like, we approved it this way. So you gotta come back to get that change, and the applicant's not happy because they're feeling that they're getting pushed from a municipality as well as the state. So
they're squeezed between, okay,
Yeah.
I just need clarity on that, okay.
So just to play devil's advocate. Obviously, as you just said, the process alone, especially at the state level, as you can probably imagine for stormwater, especially because, as John said, we have to get 2, right? We have to get the operational permit and we have to get the construction permit. At what point can we submit that application with a high level of confidence that we're in good standing with you folks with our design? So it's kind of a chicken or egg conversation, but I asked that in the spirit of saying, we also don't want to submit applications to the state, get into their process, and then possibly have to change something from the municipal side that would affect that. So oftentimes, we've done them in parallel where the application is being submitted and being reviewed. And depending on their timing, I mean, sometimes you can get them relatively soon, but sometimes they take, statutorily, they take 180 days to approve a stormwater permit. So I just want to try to understand from both sides, if we have to make an adjustment from the DRB's perspective, and that impacts our state permit application, then we're possibly amending that as well.
Yeah, I think we were hoping to get this and the preliminary, that like, now that we've kind of worked through the density plan and kind of moving towards phase 1 here, and this is where we started kind of lay out the meat and potatoes of a design. If this is starting to feel like something that is acceptable to the board, then we would start pulling the trigger on like furthering our stormwater design. Like the design is done, but like the worksheets and the application and things like that. Same with this wastewater. All the septic systems are in their correct spots. The wells are. in
Well, I
their
think I
correct
answered the
spots,
septic
like-
question. I mean, I don't think,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
think the
fair,
septic question is an issue. I think basically your wetland review and stormwater review and stuff, is what what the board's talking about. I mean, so basically the plans you submitted today obviously haven't gotten a full review from staff. So staff hasn't been able to really provide,
Sure.
in-depth comments or things along those lines. I mean, we don't have, with regards to not that I'm an engineer or anything along those lines, but we have stormwater area location shown. I don't really know, what are I can sort of scale off things on a 2-dimensional, but sometimes we'll end up getting, here's pond A is this, boom, because you get your sort of your cut sheet detail and those types of
I'm
things.
happy to provide more of that if you want.
Yeah.
They're all modeled, so like,
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
literally provide you
So,
the storage volumes, the square
those,
footage, whatever you want.
yeah, that way we have an idea that basically, okay, these are 500-year ponds, 100-year ponds, whatever it may be, because right now we show locations, but we're not, I mean, I can't tell the board what it is. So
Yeah, I mean, that these stormwater designs all reviewed at the state. But like the ponds are all sized appropriately for the
Yeah,
thing, so,
I
like, it's
get it.
done.
But
so-
no, I have no problem sharing that information. I just, we acknowledge that it's the state's jurisdiction, and if we have to go through that whole process before we can apply for final, it just, again, it puts us out at a little bit of a risk where we were more confident that if we can get approval from the DRB, then we can feather through the state process. And that might take longer, but if the permit is conditioned on obtaining all the state required permits, that's certainly a very acceptable condition. And I completely hear you, Chris, when you say you don't want to have a lot of conditions. But it's customary for us to have a condition that would say something like conditioned on obtaining all other either subordinate or state required permits.
That will be a condition at preliminary. And then when you get to final, it's checking the box, here it is. That way we can give you your final approval and just be done with it. I mean, that's how we've operated. I mean, this is something this is your plan here, your guys' plans here.
Yeah.
That basically, I mean, I had a bunch of questions. Some of them have been addressed.
Okay.
And basically the darker green line's the wetland.
Yeah.
Basically, the purple was the drainage. We've answered that. The stormwaters are, these areas here, we've gotten some information, on that, which is good. The, basically, there's no buffer shown here. So there was sort of a curiosity as to, okay, we got a buffer here. We got probably the same type of wetland. There's no buffer here.
Yeah.
So knowing the impacts of the wetland, with regards to the building of the road, knowing the impacts of the wetland buffer, that type of stuff would be, we would want to know, or at least have an idea, even though that information has to be deferred to a state approval. And we're going to mirror that. We'd want to know what we're getting into. I'm just going to go to the,
Like, I see that you highlighted, did the color not come through when I emailed you the plan?
no,
Just a curiosity.
I got the color version. This is the color version.
Huh.
And then I highlighted on top of it.
It's just, I'm curious, like, I feel bad because like what I sent had really green and purple. And it's like so
Yeah,
easier to see, so I feel bad you had to highlight a bunch of stuff.
Well,
I wonder why it didn't come through. I'm just curious.
yeah, I don't have any idea.
Okay.
But anyway,
It
so
doesn't
like,
matter.
like this plan here, these lines represent the forest riparian,
Yeah.
area. So,
Yeah, that would be good if you go ahead and take us through this map here.
Can I lay this one in front of you?
Sure, yeah.
This is the color. Chris,
what's that? Oh, yeah.
Give this you or them or.
No, I've got the,
Yeah,
they've got,
it's the same map. It just
they've
has
got-
the color on it.
Okay.
yeah, they've got the color version. See, like, that's the colored version printed out. So,
Coming out so clear.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
feedback.
yeah.
On our plotter.
Right, and then when you can look at it on the computer, it's really green and everything, right? And then it comes on the outside plotter.
So what this is the purple is the wildlife road crossing overlay, which basically just says, please don't build anything that prevents wildlife.
John, I don't want to
crossing.
interrupt, but we still have people on Zoom too. Like, so Ben is one of the DRB members, and I just want to make sure he's,
So maybe we should
Following
do it
along.
on that chart up there.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Sorry about that, Ben.
So this line here basically
Yeah.
represents the road crossing from the natural resource overlay. And like John was saying, that deals with basically making sure there's not a stockade fence, things along those lines. It's fairly benign and it should be easy to meet and address, probably through an HOA, sort of saying, here are the do's and don'ts,
Right.
for that. This was actually orange, and this was a yellow highlighter. This strip here and this here is the forest riparian buffer. And basically, through their application, you can see that they're really not, the proposed impact, they're not really impacting the buffer. I guess the only curiosity is what's going on, right in this area here. Maybe it's impacting it, but maybe it's not. So,
It's really the discharge of the pond into
Right.
that drainage.
yeah, which is,
Maintaining that drainage.
Yeah. there we go.
But we did bend, like, if you look at that map in front of you, it's a little easier to see. You asked about lot 6 specifically, and that's why that shape of that lot is more long than a big rectangle. There's using a square. It's a rectangular build zone because we're trying to not touch that riparian
Yeah, yeah.
overlay.
Right, and as we talked about last time, the geometry, we picked a square just because historically it's a typical easy shape. But, you know, the area itself, as you mentioned, is it buildable? And so dimensionally, I think it shows that they are.
So so this, you know, from this map here, it still shows the wetland area. You know, the storm drainage that we've talked about with regards to getting the sizing and things along those lines, the culverts, where were they draining? How are they draining? You know, what was the drainage? We've sort of covered that, you know, which is good because we got the plans, but that's all we got. So it's kind of a guessing game a little bit.
No, I think it's easier to stand here and lay it out for you and discuss it back
Right,
and forth,
right.
so.
Right. So I think
happy to answer
basically,
any question.
you know, some of that, you know, is, you know, if the board decides to continue it, basically, it's like, okay, let's get information on, you know, on these specific things or these concern areas. And if the board goes to close it, then basically it'll be, you know, it'll be a bit more involved. This is, the other question, and it's probably going to be covered, you know, in your.
This is preliminary, Chris, right?
Yeah.
Today's preliminary, so we don't have to.
No, you still make an approval and you say what you want for conditions.
Okay.
But this area here was the same type of thing because we got a 25% slope area here. That's basically in the wetland area, as well as the buffers. How is this being addressed? And, you know, obviously that's going to be addressed at the state level. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
so
their
we
call.
get that information or at least walks the board through, this is what we anticipate, you know, and you know, to basically provide to the state for their review. And then when we come out on the other end, you know, final, you'll have your state approval, you know, addressing this. And if there needs to be a design change in that process, that can be addressed at final, so it's taken care of. If the state's sort of saying you need to do this or that or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
So, or, you know, okay, the pond's got to be bigger or it's got to be broken up or in different areas. So that's sort of
Yeah, I
the
don't
intent or idea.
anticipate that, but I hear what you're saying.
So
I hear your
basically,
thoughts.
I sent this to you guys this afternoon. I'll end up, you know, I'll end up being able to write up more formal staff notes or questions. And I would assume that the board will have additional questions or things they would, you know, they may want to see with regards to being able to get us through preliminary. So that's kind of, that's what I sort of, that, as staff, that would be my recommendation to the board. They can obviously do whatever they'd like. You can tell the board that they shouldn't do that because of these reasons and they can make a decision.
Okay.
So I mean, I think, you know, that's how we would, you know, go through that.
Are there questions that you haven't asked yet?
No, I guess, I mean, the only thing, it's the curiosity would be is, there was, you know, comments from the Jericho Conservation Commission, with regards to the study that you provided. And I'm paraphrasing in a nutshell. Tom, the chair, is on, he can correct me when we get to public, but basically they were saying the analysis that was adopted within your report is outdated and it should be done this way or whatever. So the curiosity is, what's your response to that?
Yeah.
You know, are you gonna, how are you dealing with that? Those are the types, some of the other types of things out there. Any sort of preliminary thing from the fire department with regards to the road design, things along those lines, any boxes that we can check?
Do we have you met with the fire department, right?
Yeah,
The
so I
fire
met
chief.
with
Did he write up
Captain-
something?
Yeah.
Captain, what's
Yeah.
his name?
Chat.
And we have an email from him stating that their requirement was that we meet 10%, no greater than 10%, and that we build the full width
Mhm.
per the Jericho specs, which we had already committed to, and then obviously.
In the cul-de-sac, you want the size cul-de-sac, we
We
sized
had
it
a
for.
cul-de-sac for any emergency equipment and town maintenance vehicles. So that was the requirements, and that's what we submitted in the application originally. And yeah, I mean, again, we're here tonight, so happy to address whatever we can. If we want to talk about the Conservation Commission's observations. I think we can only speak to those on a high level because our expert isn't able to make it tonight. She actually has been away since, well, till tonight. She's back tonight, but it's not able to make it. But yeah, I mean, we didn't receive the comments from the Conservation Commission until the 14th February, which was, right before our kind of continued hearing with you guys. I did go to their hearing on the 15th, which was the next day. And we talked to the board about their concerns. Again, just not being completely up to speed with what all their concerns were and having forwarded it to John and Kristen Rose for their input, but they hadn't had a chance to review it or correspond. But I just wanted to get a deeper feedback from that board. I thought it was a good meeting. I think Tom's on, and one of the things that they had in their comments was asking for a condition regarding septic design. They've since altered that kind of opinion to allow us to provide analysis for them, which John is in the process of doing. And then, asked if we could meet with them as a committee again, and as our team, our experts, to really dive into their concerns, because, it's hard for us to just react to that. And I'm assuming the DRB would like to have either their concurrence and at least our feedback. So we have preliminary response from Kristen. I'm certainly not qualified to dive into the details of it, but, we're working to try to establish another meeting with the Conservation Commission so we can address all those issues. So hopefully the next time we're in front of you guys, they're satisfied and we're satisfied, but we just haven't had a chance to get to that point with those folks yet, time being what it is. As far as steep slopes go, this map down in the bottom left corner gives you a little bit of an analysis in terms of overall impact. So basically the dark orange on the map are the 25% slopes. And so we provided a little table there to show you that it's a total of 1.14 acres of overall impact to the 25% slopes, which is about,
It's the road.
it's the road.
There's no house impact, there's no stormwater impact, it's the road is the.
So that's been, yeah, part of the application.
And that calculation is just based on lots 1 through 8 in the road.
Nope. So that 46.1 acres in the box is
Right.
all of the
Right.
mustardy yellow that you see.
But the impact,
Yeah, the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, as far as
yeah,
phase one.
The
impact.
nice thing
I'm sorry.
about this
yeah.
design is that when we build the first 8 lots, when we do the infill on top of the hill, if we do that for phase 2, we don't have to build more road.
Right.
And we anticipate if we do that lower section, we'll be avoiding anything of 25%.
Right,
So
right.
this should be the total impact of construction on anything over 25% for the entire project. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, sorry, Chris, I thought you meant
Yeah,
the acreage, but yeah.
yeah, no, I picked up the 45%.
Yeah.
Soil erosion. Usually we get this, usually we see soil erosion. I mean, the downside with properties this big is oops. Oh,
So what we will do and what the state will require as part of the erosion control permit is kind of a phased construction approach.
Mhm.
You don't just open the whole road and
Mhm.
disturb all of your lots and house sites all at once. You start the first stretch of road, maybe it's the first 500 or 600 feet. You build that road up, you stabilize as you go. And you don't just keep opening up and create a whole lot of, you don't open up 6 acres of disturbed land at once. You do it in responsible phases. Most projects limit the amount of disturbed earth at one time to 2 acres.
Yep.
For no longer than 14 days. So like if you can keep 2 acres open and you can work on it, but at the end of that 2-week stretch, you either need to close that area up or to be able to move on to your next phase or continue work in that one phase only and close that spot up. So, we will be getting erosion control construction permit from the state of Vermont. We'll have a detail sheet that shows the silt fence, the stabilized construction entrance, Stabilized construction entrances are when you exit out onto Governor Peck Road, the first 50 to 100 feet of the road that we will build will have large crushed stone on it so that you don't track mud out into the roadway. That's very typical on all construction sites. We'll have our limits of disturbance, so the contractor will know that they have to stay within the orange tape. They aren't allowed to just clear and cut and anywhere they want. And we'll have outlet and inlet protection on each culvert, so we don't have erosion at those culverts. So just a standard detail set that tells the contractor what phases they're allowed to do, how much they're allowed to open at one time. The detailed conditions on what seed mix they're supposed to use and, mulch to keep that seed in place until it can germinate. And then we'll have an overall plan set that shows the phases and the locations of those limits of disturbance, the silt fence, the construction entrance, et cetera.
Where are you
Some
now?
of those
on-
details are in here already.
Where are you in that process?
We have that all figured out.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, so we can get some of that information. when you guys-
Yeah, I mean, I think
Is it,
I think if you go to exhibit 32,
okay,
which is our erosion control plan,
yeah, I was gonna say, one of the problems basically is if it's
it's under tab
possible to get,
9.
if it's possible to get it broken up into your phases. Because then it's a lot easier to read, to review. I'm sorry, what exhibit did you say?
It's under tab 9, exhibit 32. Yeah, I think just to put that into perspective a little bit, when John mentioned that typically the state wants to control no more than 32 acres, I'm sorry, 2 acres at a time of disturbance.
Yeah.
The entire road that we're proposing for phase 1 is about a half-mile long, and it's 28 feet wide. So that's about 1.2 acres of total roadway. So even though it looks, like a lot of impact there, the overall road is about 1.5 acres once you do the fills. That doesn't count the stormwater ponds and that type of stuff, but you can put a lot in 2 acres, I guess.
So yes, Chris, this would be to
Okay,
build phase 1, this is our erosion control plan.
okay. And I have to apologize, I mean, I haven't, because we took some time to figure out how we're gonna review this.
Mhm.
I haven't gone back to some of the original submission information
It's okay.
in further detail.
Yeah, and well, to your point, I mean, this one hasn't necessarily changed much at all, but some of the plans we did tweak after meeting with you guys. So
Okay.
we know that some of the maps are going to be superseded based on our evolution of the discussion, if you will.
Will there be limits on cutting? Will there be an envelope?
Yeah,
Yeah, so what we've tried to commit to is these half-acre building zones that we've been talking about, or less than a half acre. Basically 150 by 150 was the maximum zone that we had put. And so our draft covenants and our HOA agreement, which is also in the application,
Yep.
speaks to that. So we're perfectly happy to have either the covenants reflect that or a condition, however you always want to address it, that we would set a limit of clearing for each lot.
Chris, if you go to the phase 1 site plan that you have open, I'm not sure which tab it is, but
That's
Just a
overall.
couple. Right
that
there.
one, yeah. I think it stands out better on this because around each house site, it's white. That's what you're allowed to clear. Anything that's green, we have a squiggled edge of clearing. So they're not allowed to clear outside that, and it mimics the building zone. So you clear for your building zone, which has your septic, your house, and your well in it.
Which one is this? This is the overlay one?
This
Yeah.
is the phase 1 plan.
Phase, it's called the phase 1 plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Yeah, no, I just needed to blow it up. All right. So there.
So the large open lot, will that be open to, logging?
Well, no, the whole parcel right now is in the state's forestry management plan.
Okay,
And we have kept it in that plan. And what we've talked to the experts about is maintaining. So essentially everything below phase one is going to be continued to stay in that program until phase two, and then that lower area of future phase may have future lots in it. But that green space now is about 100 acres
Yeah.
total. And when we're done with phase two, if you will, we're looking at about 74 total acres being left in that program.
Mhm.
And then it'll be up to the state to decide whether or not they'll keep it in the program. Obviously, they have that jurisdiction, and I think, I forget their cycle. It's like every 10 years, something like that. I forget now. You remember if it's 10, Henry, or I think it's 5. But I know it's up for renewal in 2024,
Mhm.
and then it might be a 5-year cycle from there. But no, our plan is to leave it as is, which would mean it wouldn't be actively logged, but as part of the forestry management plan, they may have some rules for us in terms of thinning and whatever that requirement is. But we're trying to, as we've said, try to leave as much of it untouched as possible.
So will these house sites be visible from from anywhere else?
I don't believe so. I mean, they're very well isolated in kind of not the center of the lot, but they're certainly not going to be seen from Governor Peck Road. I mean, there's quite a large elevation difference between Governor Peck and, hundreds and hundreds of feet of thick tree vegetation. So you won't see it from there. Externally on the outside, we've left a minimum of 100-foot buffer of trees to our external property line. And if you look at where our clearing limits are, it's actually in practicality more like 300 feet, because you're not allowed to clear to the back of your lot, like lot
Right.
4 and 3. We've limited the clearing limit. So not only do we have our zoning and lot setback, but there's the no clearing along the back of each lot. So lot 5, 4, and 3, you own, to within 100 feet of the property line is your individual lot, but you're not allowed to clear that.
But
Yeah.
like
and
if you're
I-
coming down the interstate, will you be able to look over there and see
No.
these?
No.
No. So these won't, nobody's,
There's no off-site
Right.
use to this.
We
or
can't,
in-
right, we can't say that the people on Sunset Ridge, especially the ones down closer to lot 3,
uh-huh.
may be able to see a house through the woods. I mean, because it's pretty flat, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's, and when you walk the existing road and you look up past lot 5, you can see a house in hidden pines through there during late fall. But if you do a Google Earth, I mean, to
But there's
John's
not-
point, we're hundreds of feet away from the park.
But there's not views, like from what I remember walking on there and digging test pits, there's not views from this land out to the outside world.
No,
like
no.
The interstate, Route 2 or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
pretty well contained.
Yeah, it's not on a ridge line. It doesn't have views of the hump or Mansfield. And then to John's point, from down on Governor Peck Road, you really don't even know that that property is there.
You're gonna drive by the curb cut that there is now. It's gonna feel the same.
Yeah,
So there's no proposed street lighting.
no,
And
we're,
any sort of residential, any sort of exterior, say, okay, if I own lot 4, is there gonna be any sort of restriction on me putting up pole lighting or something like that? So, I want to build a tennis court or pickleball court or whatever, and I want to play year round. I mean, what are your intentions with regards to limitation on exterior lighting for the lots? Since now you control it.
Sure.
Now's the time to be able to say what they can and can't do, so.
Yeah, well, in our covenants that we submitted as well, so we're requiring any exterior lights to be fully cut off, downcast and shielded fixtures. We haven't set any other limitations outside of that because, again, from the dark skies initiatives that John and I have worked on in the past, the goal is to keep light from traversing the property line and not escaping your own property line. So having low level lighting in terms of height as well as downcast and shielded. And as we said, with these clearing limits, we're literally 200 to 300 feet away from the next property line in a pretty heavily wooded area. And admittedly, this upper area is all red pine, so it's not thick, dense fir, but it's still quite a distance. So yeah, Chris, we have addressed it to some degree in our covenants, and, you know, to some degree, we want to control it, but at the same time, we want some people to have some of their own property rights. So, but no street lighting. All the utilities, as we said, would be buried. So no poles running up the road.
Just curious if over the years, when we've had some of these crazy storms come through, like, you know, over on Mott's Farm, for instance, we just had a bunch of pine groves in there that have just completely blown over. And sometimes those types of dense pockets can be susceptible to being ripped through, you know, with crazy weather. Just curious, has any of that occurred on the site? Is there any?
I mean, I've spent a lot of time up there hunting this fall. And there's kind of typical deadfall, I would call it. There is some legacy downfall from Dave Villeneuve's logging practices where he, you know, took down pine trees to get to the good wood. But the amount of time I've spent up there, I didn't witness, and I've witnessed some pretty big winds during the fall. Didn't witness anything like that, you know, like those little climate bursts or things that, I'm not saying it can't happen, but not that I witnessed anyway.
The fact that we're controlling the size of the clearing helps a lot too. What I've seen is when you're in like an old plantation of those red pine or, you know, thick growth, and you make a big clearing, the ones along the edge don't have support anymore and they start to fall in, and that grows and grows. So that's why we tried to break up some clearings and keep it limited around each house so that we don't create a big area where, like, you know, the wind can start to whip through and you start to lose some trees.
I guess go ahead and go to ask for any other questions. I guess we are going to ask to continue till we close some of these. We'd hate to get to final and then tell you at final without giving you a chance. So,
Right. So maybe the recommendation is to hear what the public has to say, hear what the applicant's response is, and then we can come up with a game plan for next steps.
okay.
Because that may check some boxes or raise some issues.
Okay. Yeah. Ben, do you have any questions here?
Not right now, no.
Okay. So anybody else? Phil? Okay, we'll go to public comment then. Anybody? Okay, state your name and
Carl Wednesday.
Okay, you have to come up, Carl.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want us to sit back
You
there?
can slide over. Pull up a chair, Carl.
Hello, Carl Warrenson, 30 Sunset Ridge, lot 7 on the map there. Just wanted to make a comment about the red pine forest up there. It was heavily logged 10, maybe 15 years ago, something like that. There are a lot of pockets of emptiness, and over the years, the trees have blown down. So whereas it used to be relatively dense plantation, it is no longer. There's a lot of bramble. There's strips of red pine still standing, but there's a lot of open pockets, a lot of bramble that's going up in there. So it's not really dense forest anymore. It's really quite open in a lot of places there.
You said it was locked 15 years ago-ish?
Yeah, about 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay.
So I just wanted to share that and make sure people kind of understood what it's looking like. And like I said, we have seen a lot of those trees in the buffer, areas, with the standing areas, being knocked down with winds over the years because they haven't had the support of the trees next to them. Yeah. That's all I had to say.
thanks, Carl.
So we have okay, it looks like we've got I'm drawing a huge blank on your name.
Kurt.
Kurt, there we go. So Kurt would like, let me admit
You gotta
you, I gotta do something. What I gotta do?
Unmute.
Why is that? Oh, yeah. No, it's muted. He's unmuted. No, that's okay. You're up, Kurt.
Chris, could you bring up the plan that shows the wetland down by Governor Peck Road? And just blow up the entrance, or enlarge, sorry, don't blow up, enlarge the entrance off from Governor Peck there.
Carter.
Okay,
You want that bigger, Kurt, or is that good?
make it bigger, please.
Would you like it larger?
Yeah,
Either that or you're gonna need to get a bigger monitor.
okay, well, anyway, if you could show with your point of your cursor, the existing logging road, where that shows.
I can do it, yeah. Do you want me to use the cursor to do it or just?
Yeah, just-
All right, I'll follow your finger.
It's, it comes in right here.
Mm.
Right here, and then it splits. There's kind of.
That's the new road. Please show the existing road.
Right here, right here.
Right there.
Show where the existing road comes off from Governor Peck
See-
Road.
Right here, right here. That splits and goes up the hill. We're curving
Okay,
here.
and then can you show,
Requirement for the town.
okay, can you then show the edge of the existing vegetation?
The existing vegetation, I believe I can. The new vegetation that we're gonna cut is shown in green. The existing vegetation is this line in black.
How
We're mimicking
about the other side of the road?
the side of the road, sir, I believe is
A little to your right is existing, John. It's basically right on the edge of the new road
right
line.
here.
Yeah.
So for grading purposes, we will be widening the vegetation in that area.
Okay, the point I'm trying to make is that the new road is entirely within existing vegetation, and it's quite a bit to the southwest of the current road. Just so the DRB understands that. It's just not an existing road. The other thing is if,
So just to pause for a
Wait,
second.
wait. Let him make his point, and then
Okay.
basically the board will, when he's done making his
Okay.
points or questions, then the board will let you address.
Oh, all right.
them. So that way we didn't get in that back and forth.
That's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So go ahead, Kurt. I'm sorry.
yeah, and the other thing the wetland that shows here, I'm not sure where all the little X's go, but it is wet on both sides of the existing logging road. And I think the vegetation is the same. So this would be something that the DRB should look at when they get into this issue of wetlands. Certainly the existing road certainly there is an existing road there. That's a narrow road. It's been there probably 50 years. This is a new road that's 28 feet wide plus the fill on both sides. So it's a significant change there. Regarding the culvert, yes, that culvert is undersized for the brook. Back when we had the spring thaw or the January thaw, I guess it was a December thaw, there was water running over this existing logging road. So yes, that's going to change the drainage patterns and the topography there. And certainly I think the town highway department, when they made their suggestion of putting a culvert there, is a good one, but it's going to change may impact wetlands in that area as well. So I just think you need to take a closer look at this area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yes, it's
So should we see if there are more comments?
oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna answer that comment, but we'll do whatever you want.
Oh, you got Kurt. Let me see if there's anybody else that doesn't, if anybody else has got a question, please raise your hand or would like to participate at this point.
Hey, it's Wes. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this is Wes Grove. He lives across the street.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for the information. Yeah, I had a few questions regarding, my land is across the street. My home site is likely going to, look across that can't see the map. It's a little small right now for me on my cell phone, but at the end of the cul-de-sac there, So I want to look at this map afterwards, and I wanted to know if this is kind of the final proposal for the clearing of those lots there. I understand that correctly. It's the white section.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, so that you're proposing that would be the only area of the lot that will be cleared, and the rest of it in your HOA guidelines would say you have to keep that wooded, if you will.
Yes.
Yep, that's our plan.
Okay. Now, obviously my main concern is to not have to look at something like I have over in Cochran's there where the whole top of the mountain's cut off, because I certainly would see that from my property and some of the other houses potentially on my land. Okay. Another question I had was,
You'd be across the way here. 73 acres from the building across the street.
Okay, sorry. I was
Yeah.
looking
Three
at
lot PUD.
Christopher and Jen Wilson. We're talking down here.
Yeah, well, I think he wraps around.
Okay, you have another question?
Sorry.
Wes?
yeah, I think you answered my questions on the lighting. The reason that I proposed the same questions that Chris brought up, it's around, I'm sure that I'm going to see lights or some of the houses on my property are going to see lights if they're up there on the hill. I agree that from Governor Peck, you won't see them, but I think certainly from my property, you certainly would. So putting that into the HOA and making it such that the HOA can't vote away those regulations would be something I'd like the DRB to consider, similar to what was put in my covenants. One other question I had was, this is quite a subdivision. Obviously, you're talking about a decade of construction as you guys work through this. How are you considering, I'd like to understand how you're considering some regulations around the construction timing, can they be there 7 days a week all the time? Something I'd like to understand a bit better. And my final question is on the density of phase 2. Do you have any clarity on what types of homes you're planning to build there? Are those duplexes or are those single family homes? And that's all. Thank you.
So I think we have 3 questions. Is there anybody else online that has a question?
Jeff, could we confirm Kurt's last name, please?
Carter.
Thank you.
I don't think there's anybody else online. So maybe we could go through these questions here. For phase 2, are those single family homes or is that not yet decided or?
Oh, we want to go in reverse order. So to answer that question, we don't have a plan for that. As you guys know, we're selling lots, right? Like with any other lot, it's be subject to the town zoning regulations in terms of a private landowner. So if somebody bought the lot, it would be up to Chris and whomever to decide what is allowable. In this zone, as you know, duplexes are allowed on lots, but we're not building houses. We're selling land. So is it conceivable that there could be somebody applying for a duplex? Certainly. As we've testified earlier, we've opened up a dialogue with the Affordable Housing Committee and the Planning Commission, as well as the Community Economic Development Committee, to try to see if we can enter into a public-private some kind of deal to try to help with Jericho with their housing needs and whatever that means. And so we see phase 2 as a potential for that, but it's really up to the town to decide. But in terms of what will be built on what lots, we don't even have the lots laid out yet, right?
Okay.
So we're still trying to configure what they're doing.
So
So
Chris, the zoning here allows a single family or a duplex?
Yeah.
That would be.
So you
that would
could buy lot 5 and you could build a duplex.
Okay.
You
But
could buy
nothing
lot
more-
5 and build a single family home and do an ADU. And that could
Okay.
operate as a duplex. So
Okay.
there's, so there is the potential for 34 residences if this is totally approved at 17 lots. So But that's what the
Okay.
zoning allows. What they're asking for is approval of lots. If those lots are approved, then whatever the allowance is
Uh-huh.
within the zoning regulations can occur. And if it's permittable, I get to say yes or no. If it's conditional use, then it comes to the board for review. And then from a residential standpoint, yes, single family and duplexes are allowed.
Okay. The other second question was on construction timing.
Yeah, so once again, we're selling lots, but we will be the ones building the road, and we're not inclined to start building the road until we have a few lots under contract, obviously, because it's just another expense to us. As we've said, we're trying to permit 8 lots, and that basically is a 5-year window before we could come back and ask for additional lots. It's conceivable that we could sell 8 lots tomorrow, and there could be 8 people building in the summer, or we could sell 1 lot in the next 5 years. And so it's really hard to control. But to answer your question, Wesley, we have no problem putting limits on construction so there aren't like Sunday morning working hours or early Saturday morning working hours. So there aren't backup signals going on all weekend long and things like that. I think most of us have lived through that, and we'd rather not. So in terms of putting restrictions on construction times, I don't think that that's something that we would have a problem with. As long as it's reasonable to the builders to be able to build in a reasonable time frame. But weekend hours are something we can absolutely limit, and we can certainly limit the annoying backup signals of heavy trucks.
And I think we answered the question in earlier discussions on the downcast lighting, which will be a zoning requirement for that.
Yeah, and I guess if Mr. Grove has covenants that have been approved by the board that you want to share, we're happy to take a look at those, and if we can model ours after that, then, I mean, again.
So you want me to send you his covenants?
Sure.
Yeah, I register with the town.
Public record.
And then we'll go back to Kirk Carter's questions. You have any comment on the?
Yeah, I mean, we are constructing an expanded modified roadway there as required by the town. If you want to get in discussion about making a smaller road, all ears, like it doesn't behoove the applicant to build a bigger road than is required. We're building to the town highway standard. We will need to widen the existing log road to do that, but just to the extent that is required by the town. So, new gravel, wider road surface, ditching, grade restrictions as we showed in our profile.
And we're also
doing what's
happy,
required.
we're happy to give you an actual measurement of the existing road. I mean, right now it's about 14, 15 feet wide. And the new road is 24 by town standards. So it is going to be wider. But for the most part, as we've said, where the existing culvert crosses Governor Peck Road, that is the existing leading edge, northern edge of the logging road. And so we're not going north with it. We're going a little bit further south with the limits of the new road. So we're pretty much trying to hold, Kurt, the northern boundary of the existing logging road, with the exception of having to swing the new road to accommodate the town's grade requirements.
Okay.
I just want to say one thing, that early on you submitted declaration of covenants, and it said only single family residents would be allowed. So you may want to amend that.
Yeah, I mean, we went into it with the feeling that was our plan, to have single family residents, but again, the Affordable Housing Committee and the Conservation
Yeah,
Commission
I'm
both.
just telling you that this,
Yeah.
this is in the record here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Also that no chickens can be kept. I think we should get that out of there.
Yeah. The reason
We're willing to take any recommendations on the covenants whatsoever. If you want chickens, then we're good with chickens.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Okay, so,
No chickens.
No, she makes chickens.
No,
No, you've got no chickens in there.
right, yeah. How do you feel about donkeys? I personally want a donkey. But
Let's focus.
So we can get a sort of a sense from the board about, I do think we need to see the state before we do final, but I don't see us making any major changes to this plan in terms of getting into the iteration of state versus us, right? If the state says this is a good plan, then, I think we'll be okay with it. But we don't want to.
So we should.
We don't want to iterate with the
So-
state on this one. So I'd like to have the state come back and say, yes, this is good, and then have us make our decision then.
Right, so I guess there's like one of two ways to approach it. And I'll open this up to how the board, how you would like to proceed, and then the applicant, you should comment as well. So there's two ways to do this. Either we close the preliminary hearing and we basically develop a decision saying all these things, boom, 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 boom. The other option basically is to continue the hearing, ask for additional information and or additional details from the testimony that we've had and what our perception or understanding is, to make sure we're on the same page. And then that next preliminary hearing, we would potentially, I would assume, be able to close and render a decision, which would basically set everything up for final. So I think the first question is you, the board, need to figure out if you think you've got enough to do that. Then that's fine. If the applicant feels strongly one way or another, they should say this is what we'd like the board to entertain or do to that effect. And from my standpoint, I think always having cleaner ideas and clear, understanding on both parties, it's beneficial both to the applicant as well as to the board, because then there's no misinterpretation or things along those lines. So I think those are the two potential paths. I guess the only thing that I would, if we do continue, we may end up getting pushed to April 12th because March 22nd, we may not have a quorum. So I know time is money and things along those lines, but so I think if the board, you can either ask everybody to leave and deliberate privately, or you talks amongst yourselves, which you usually do, and go from there.
Well, I know that I would like to see the covenants develop more, because there's nothing that I see in here about no cutting. And lighting, it just says it shall not be placed so as to detract from the aesthetics of the property. There also, if you asked for the density bonus based on following the stretch code, there's nothing in this that says they have to.
But understood. I mean,
So,
those are
yeah,
drafts
right.
that we gave
Yeah.
you back in
No,
November.
I'm just telling you. some
I'm
of the
glad to
things
hear
that
that.
I
Yeah.
would like to
Right.
see before making a final
We
determination.
have committed to all those things in the actual application as well, just to be clear. So in the body of the binder that you have, we have stated those commitments, but yeah, we're happy to redraft the covenants. Thank you.
I'd also like to, I think there's been a lot of open items, like we're talking about the Conservation Commission. As I read through their comments, you said you've had a preliminary meeting with them. We haven't seen feedback you said they are changing positions on things. We haven't heard from Tom. I don't know if he wants to speak or not, but it would be good for us to be able to have those updates and answers to a lot of the questions that they had for you. And any other updates from any of the other committees that you've met with.
Is that for final or before preliminary? I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, those are things that need to be taken care of before this thing ends.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter as to when. And so. I mean, there's nothing preventing going to final and continuing a final hearing, because something's not developed enough, whether it's a covenant or things along those lines. That's, it's just a matter of where where the board feels it's at with regards to being able to make you feel you can make a preliminary decision with an adequate punch list to give them the information so they can develop their final application.
Yes.
And so there's no surprises. That's fine. If you need further information to make it, to get to that point, then a continuation would probably be advised. But so it's, like I said, but there's nothing preventing a final hearing from being continued. Traditionally, we try to go to final and we're just checking boxes. We said, we needed A, B, C, and D.
Sure.
And condition, 1, 2, and 3, and the applicant says, well, here's A, B, C, and D, and 1, 2, and 3. And
Yeah, I mean, my general sense has been with some of these open items that those could be conditioned from my perspective.
I think I'm in agreement there.
Ben?
I couldn't hear what either Phil or what was said.
Ben, our opinions on this were that we felt that some of the open items that have been in discussion during the meeting could be conditioned as part of the preliminary hearing, moving towards a final, understanding that these things are moving towards resolution next time we meet.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I agree.
Comment?
Only do we want to create an actual punch list of those items, because we're as committed to trying to get those answered for you as possible. It's just, trying to set up meetings with other folks sometimes can take time. And
Sure.
so
what I'm thinking that I'm hearing is that basically they would close the preliminary hearing, they would render a decision, and it would give you your punch list
okay,
of everything that's expected for final.
okay.
And so that would, then the ball's in your court to do, your work to get those things taken care of and brought to fruition at final. If they're not brought to fruition at final, then there's probably a continuation at final till we get that taken care of.
Okay. So the only thing that I would ask in your considerations is the state stormwater permit. We're happy to go forward with the application process. Just based on my experience, sometimes it can take 6 months from the time they deem your application complete to get the actual stormwater permit. So if it's at all possible to open up a condition that says within a reasonable time frame of attaining the permit. So if we get delayed on the state side and we don't have any control over that, but you folks are all satisfied with everything, all the other criteria, then maybe there's a way forward to say we can approve our permit with that condition, knowing that we've applied and now we're at the mercy of the state and there's not much we can do about it. So that just, if you could consider that in your deliberations, that would be appreciated.
One thing the board does have the ability, I'm not sure the applicant knows, the board can have quote experts review designs and plans and provide comment just to make sure that everything's apples to apples. So that's one thing. I guess the only other thing is that we have a potential of 17 lots. One of the discussions that the board will have to figure out from a condition standpoint is traffic impact. And, whether a traffic study is warranted. The regulations state 20 units or greater, otherwise you guys have discretion. So, we're potentially at 17, there's potential duplexes. So that's something, so that would be a potential that would be something that would need to be addressed between preliminary and final. Because that is a criteria that needs to be addressed. I know the applicants said they, don't think there's going to be a traffic impact because it's less than what's required. So,
Right, and just to be, so we're still talking about the 8 lots, so, right? I mean, I know 17 lot density, but
right.
we're with 8 lots, even if they all build duplexes, which we don't really think that's gonna happen. That would be 16 total units in this first phase.
Right, but you're gonna be leaving here with an approval for 17 lots and the ability to pull permits on your first date. So you're gonna have to come back to show the additional, 9 lots that you can actually, build. So that cumulative impact, I think the board's got the right to ask for that information. So.
Okay.
I also might want to make a site visit to see the property. I don't know if anybody else is interested, but if I did, who would I contact?
So, but yeah, so you'd want to do a site visit between preliminary and final.
Yeah,
That could be, the board could request doing a site visit, when we go to warn, for a final hearing. We've done that before with regards to the Sharon property and a few others where between the preliminary and final. We've had site visits to fully understand the nature of the lot as well as the development of the covenants and the restrictions and things. So,
especially with a project at the scale.
I mean, you can ask and the applicant can say no. But I don't think that's what happened.
No,
They
no,
can.
I mean, again, I think it's probably easier if we're there with you, just to show you where the things are, but
Yeah, no, we'd want you to.
the good news is again, as we've been saying, the existing logging road really paints a good picture because you're not wandering through the woods aimlessly thinking, oh, see that yellow flag over there? That might be you can actually get a sense. So it's,
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea.
So we have a comment here, Joe and John. This is from Tom Barabo. It's sort of related to, I'm not sure who, with regards to the commission, I guess the meeting on the 15th. And they'll discuss the presentation of the NRO regulations mitigation. So what I will do is reach out to Tom as to see if they can turn that stuff around lickety split. Because once the public hearing is closed, we have 45 days to render a decision. And so that way we can take their comments and work it into the decision as well as.
right.
Yeah.
And what I asked, well, again, I know that they're meeting on the 15th, but our expert doesn't return until the 15th. So we've tried to make a request to maybe have a meeting that she can be at because she's really the one that can address to the level of detail. But if that's the time they're meeting, then I can see if she can be available, but I don't think she's back in town until the actual 15th.
Okay, well, you guys can try to work that out.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, wait a minute, you gotta
Motion to close.
no. Well, you
I
can
didn't
close the
try.
public hearing, but then basically you guys, I guess we can deliberate and we'll have to deliberate and you'll have to make a decision on the preliminary. And so probably want to deliberate in private, that way we can hash things out. So, yeah, but you do want to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a Motion to
So
close. Thank you. I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Thank you guys on TV.
We have two other items. We have two sets of minutes to approve. On the set for January 25th. Only change I had was on line 44, where it talks about Jericho Elementary School. CRS.
John, you can leave me whatever copies are.
Okay, those are the 2 color copies. These are black and white. Do you want both? I'll take whatever, I'll leave whatever you want.
No, actually, I'll take those because I can get it from scale up.
Do you want the profile?
Yeah, why don't you leave me that? I don't think no, do I have that originally? I think I do have that.
You have it digitally, you don't have a big paper copy.
Let me have the paper.
Line 44 says it's a 1.5
Thank you.
parcel across from Jared KES.
Oh, that was the 20.
Just throw them right there. I'll hold them all up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a comment on that. Both the January and the February minutes did not include the fraudsters.
Really?
Yeah. This one Or not, others president.
So both sets of minutes, they weren't part. Okay, okay.
I thought they signed in, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I saw somebody sent a note about that. Oh, okay. Well,
Could we ask you guys to?
I think nobody's asked.
Joe, let's step outside.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're still in public hearing. Thank you. Yeah, we can get, okay, so there's that amend to the 25th and the 22nd for Joanne or Joan?
Joanne.
Joanne. Yeah. And then, and Ed.
Yep.
And then basically at the Browns River. You're gonna give me the markup, right? I read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So what,
I also know that Kristen was also on the digital call for both. meetings.
right, did she give information in the chat box?
Probably not.
Okay, that's probably why she didn't show up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the decision got signed and got sent out to you guys. So,
Okay.
so when you see,
Is-
when you see the recognition for a certified letter, sign it, okay? Don't think it's something bad.
Is the last name, is Ron's last name spelled correctly on both
Who?
of those? Ron, the presenter for
Oh,
Hunt.
yes, I believe it is.
It's a Y? That doesn't,
Zelinski.
doesn't look right to me. I don't know where I saw it, but I didn't think it was a Y.
I think it is.
Could be a J. What I'll do is I'll look at the sign-in sheet. So they do have that. Okay.
It just looked funny to me. I tried to find where I saw it written out. I don't know where I saw it.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, Aaron just said it's a J.
J?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So noted.
Any other tweets on the February? Okay, so on the first set of minutes, can we have a motion to approve them with those two changes of adding the trotters and correcting the JES to Browns River Middle School?
Right, as well as Ron and Melanie's last time. Okay. Yep.
Motion to approve.
So I have a motion to approve. Thanks, Ben. I'll second it. You guys okay with approving the 25th with those changes?
I'm abstaining.
For the January,
Yeah,
that yes.
thank you. Now we're talking about, thank you. Now we're talking about the February 22nd. Again, the trotters should be listed.
And Andrew just did my job and found a typo.
Yes, line 132.
Available is misspelled.
Oh,
Can't help it.
Same last name typo.
Yeah. Yeah. Make it a Z this time.
That's okay. Didn't they have town?
Sounds good.
Housing committee was spelled.
Possibly.
I think it was HOU.
Ben, did you just make a motion?
We haven't talked about the February
Oh, I
22nd
thought
one
Ben
yet.
made a motion.
So do we
I'll
have,
make a motion to approve the minutes of February 22nd.
I'll second this one.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, with the one change on the line
Yeah.
132.
That's 222. Yeah, I'm gonna close the door. So I guess we're all done with the public meeting, right? I can,
Yes.
okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Right.